Alright guys, so this fanfiction idea was voted on by you guys over on Patreon. And yeah, this was a close one, and I might do, because of how close it was, I might do this as a, the other video too, because it was a very close one. But winning by 46% of the vote is a crossover between Danny Phantom and The Crow. So, as always, if you guys would like to join in on the polls, or at the very least, you know, check out the movie reviews over on Patreon, just hit the link below, head on over to my Patreon, where you guys can start sending me, if you hit that's for the third tier, you guys can start sending me requests for videos to do here on YouTube. But if you just want to check out movie reviews, as well as be a part of polls that affect videos here on YouTube, as well as, you know, check out movie reviews and I'm repeating myself, I'm tired. If you want to just check out movie reviews and do polls that affect videos here on YouTube and on Patreon, just hit the link below and hit the first tier. I'm sorry, it took me so much to get through that. I'm very tired. I apologize. Anyway, so like I said, this one's going to be fun. I haven't done anything with The Crow, which is weird because I really like that movie. Notice how I said movie and not the sequels. Anyway, so let's get started with the story. So this story begins with a new champion of the Crow, a new, like, avatar of the Crow, being awoken from his grave after a heinous crime was committed on them. And as they're pulling themselves out, the Crow is there, but however, things are different this time. What happens is that there's someone else there. There's someone waiting for them. And that person is this unknown assailant known only as the Defiler. And the Defiler kills the new avatar of the Crow. And you're probably thinking, whoa, that's not right. How is that even possible? How is this Defiler guy who he looks like he's all bandaged, he wears bandages, he wears like a cloak, he's got a scythe, he's like death incarnate. But we'll get into more about the Defiler in a bit. But the Defiler kills him with his scythe, just slices him down the middle across the chest and just kills him. But the Crow manages to escape. But it's weird because, like, you need to hurt the Avatar, you need to hurt the Crow. But this is different. And of course, the powers that be are confused by this. And the Defiler is just like, the only thing that should, I am the thing that, mocks death. I am the Defiler, and I mock all who cross the boundaries between life and death. And he's like, he already killed one avatar, and they're like, oh shit. The powers that be that command the Crow from the afterlife are like, oh shit. Who the fuck is this guy? Well, they need to stop him, and there's only really one person they can think of who can really stop the Defiler. And that person is Eric Draven. They're what they consider their greatest champion. And Eric has been enjoying the afterlife, in bliss with his wife, but now, the afterlife, like the Crow, reaches out into the beyond, that tethers the beyond, and pulls Eric out of the afterlife from his wife, and makes him come out of the grave. And he's like, "No, I did it! I avenged my death and my wife's death. Why did you pull me back? I was happy. I was done." And the Crow's just like, "Caw, bitch." And he's like, "Why? Why did you do this?" But the Crow more or less directs him to, he directs him to, like, a motorcycle that's just sitting there, unattended, and he's like, "Where are you taking me?" So he has to follow the Crow to the next location of following the Defiler. And where is the Defiler? Why, he's in Amity Park. See, the Defiler, like I said before, the Defiler's whole thing is that the Defiler is the thing that mocks things that cross between life and death. Well, ghosts kind of meet that criteria as well. So the Defiler has got Danny Phantom in his sights, and he's got all of the Ghost Zone in his sights. So the Defiler, while Danny is out, just kind of just on patrol, protecting the city from any ghosts. That's when the Defiler attacks him, and he's like, "Holy shit!" So the two fight, and Danny is not used to fighting someone who isn't a ghost. He's had experience fighting Valerie and the guys in white. But the thing is, those guys had ghost hunting tools. He's never really fought someone of, like, dark magic outside of Freak Show. So the Defiler is a completely new threat to him. But he notices, like, there's something with the Defiler, that there's, like, a vulture with it. Like, there's this vulture who follows him around. And the Defiler does manage to hurt Danny. But before he manages to, like, cut a deep wound into him. But before he can finish him off, Eric shows up and saves Danny. And he's like, "I don't know who the hell you are, dude. Like, I don't know what's up with the weird face paint, but I'm glad you're here, Slipknot." Like, I don't know if you're like, thanks for the help. I'm glad one of the guys from Slipknot decided to come and help me. And the Defiler is like, "Oh, Eric, they sent you. How funny." Like, he's holding his scythe, and he's just like, "How interesting that the powers that be sent you to deal with me." And Eric is like, "You did. I woke up on the wrong side of the grave, and I take it it's your fault? Who are you, good sir?" And he's like, "I am simply the Defiler, and all things who cross the line between living and death shall face my scythe." And comes slicing at him. Eric and Danny bounce, and they're like, "Whoa, this guy's pretty strong, but what's this guy's story? Like, what is his whole deal?" So Danny takes him back, and he's like, "Well, what's your deal, too?" He takes him back to Fenton Works, and he's like, "All right, dude, while we need to figure out who the Defiler is, what's your deal?" And he's like, "Oh, dude, you wouldn't believe me." He's like, "Dude, look at me. Obviously, I'm gonna buy whatever you're selling." He's like, and he says, and Sam also brings up that you're like, "Holy shit, did you say Eric Draven? Holy shit, you're a legend." Like, obviously, the goth girl knows about Eric Draven, a musician that was murdered horribly on October 30th, and then, like, there were legends of him coming back from the dead and avenging his murder. So they're like, "Holy shit, are you a ghost?" He's like, "Not exactly. I'm the avatar of the Crow, and when someone dies of a unjustified death, the Crow brings them back. I was brought back before to avenge my murder and my wife's murder, but my job was done. But this is different. The Crow brought me back to deal with the Defiler because he killed, the Defiler murdered the last avatar that was supposed to climb out of its hole. Like, now that, and this is really bad because Eric explains the Defiler has more or less how he killed the other avatar. And he keeps killing avatars, the Crow. They're never going to be they're going to be restless spirits for the rest of their lives. They're never going to feel justified. They're never going to have their deaths, avenged or justified, and they're never going to cross over to the afterlife. They're going to be in a state of perpetual purgatory. So we need to deal with this threat." And he's like, and Danny's like, "Perpetual purgatory? You mean like a ghost zone?" And they're like, "Oh shit." But first they need to figure out who is the Defiler and what his whole deal is. And Danny points out, well, if it helps, this guy had a vulture with him. And Eric's like, interesting. And he's like, the Crow is with him, and the Crow is all curious too. And they basically deduce that the Defiler is also an avatar. But this of the vulture, which is, a feeder of the dead, and someone who, like, consumes the dead. So, yeah, it's kind of the antithesis of the Crow, but this is more like, it's here to bring death and destruction, and feed off the dead and chaos. And he's like, death, and Eric is like, "Death and chaos. This sounds really familiar." So they go out and find the Defiler again, and Eric and Danny, do battle with the Defiler again. And Eric is like, "It took me a moment to figure out, who you were, but I kind of figured if there was anyone who was all about, spreading chaos and fear, there's really only one person who comes to mind. Isn't that right, Top Dollar? So, and the Defiler's like, okay, you got me. It's me. Is it like, I was so, like, he's like, I can't tell you how excited I was, at the thought of killing you off in the afterlife. I couldn't, but yeah. So the Vulture used Top Dollar as I wanted to use it as his avatar and, feed off the dead and murder the crow, like the crow's avatars, and keep them from being avenged and be in, like I said, a state of just absolute hell, a void, if you will. So Danny and Eric do battle with Top Dollar, aka the Defiler, while the Crow actually has like a little fight with the Vulture. The fight continues, and Danny is like, this guy's like literally shrugging off any hits we hit him with, and Eric is like, wait, if he's like me, that means he needs to, we don't need to hit him, we need to hit the Vulture. And Danny's like, well, I didn't think I would be committing an animal abuse today, but here we are. So he just blasts a beam of ecto energy at the Vulture and incinerates it. And Top Dollar, the Defiler's just like, oh shit. And he starts crumbling away, and he's like, no, you don't understand, I'm gonna go back to the void. And Eric goes, that's too good for you, and just proceeds to crush his head under his foot. So with the Defiler defeated, Eric is allowed to go back to the afterlife and see Sarah again. But before he goes, he's like, it was good to see you, it was nice to see you, Danny. The afterlife is really much a buzz about you. So maybe we'll see each other again in the afterlife. And Sam is like, hey, before you go, can I ask a request? And he's like, sure. I already know. So he like signs he autographs his CD, his album, for Sam before he goes back to the afterlife. So there you go, guys. That is pretty much my Danny Phantom the Crow crossover. Once again, I'd like to thank you guys for voting for this fanfiction idea. And once again, if you'd like to be part of this, be part of polls, just hit the link below, head on over to my Patreon, and hit the first tier. But other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. And yeah, once again, I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.